Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Jesse, and over the last few days I've had the pleasure to work on a really fun water harvesting project here in Oroville, California. This is in collaboration with my friend Caroline of Four Seasons Garden Design, so if you're in the area, check her out. What we're doing here is we're on a 5-acre property near Oroville. It's kind of on a ridge top, and there's an orchard and a lot of hardscape here, and we're trying to just transform this into a food forest. First, we're starting off with water harvesting. So I'd like to give you a tour of our water harvesting system that we put in and show you how it works. As with any water harvesting plan, you always want to start at the top. So let's go up to the house and I'll show you where it all starts. So as you can see, there's a large house as well as a garage, and we're going to collect all the water off both these roofs. Starting with the garage here, these has 2 downspouts that both drain into this kind of zone 1, zone 2 orchard area. This downspout's draining into this little rain garden here. You can see the pipe sticking out right there. That's nicely protected with rocks to keep all that water from eroding. It's going to take the energy out of the water after it's fallen out of that downspout. There's another downspout up here. Kind of the same thing, little rock garden just to slow that water down. And we've also built some paths throughout this whole project. Big, wide, flat paths, so the owner here can walk around easier and drive a little cart around as well. So the water coming off of this downspout, it goes across the path. We have many of these path crossings here with the water, and basically all it is just it's slightly higher on the downhill than it is uphill, and so that water, instead of wanting to go down the path, wants to go across it. And we do that a nice gentle slope so the water doesn't move too fast. So this drains into this little basin, which then crosses that path and goes into another kind of just a channel over there that directs it downhill. Where it meets up with this path out of this rain garden. Again, one of those path crossings, just a very gentle slope change into another little rain garden. Across another path, and then it goes into this final rain garden of this area. That connects back up with that little water channel and then goes out this spillway. And this spillway hopefully catch any of the leaves and debris that come out of this area. Get caught in these rocks and clean that out occasionally, and that'll keep them off the driveway. So you can kind of see where the water goes from here. All the water that falls on this side of the driveway follows down this path and then hits this part of the road where the crown of the road deflects it off to the side into this little ditch. And so what we've done here is we've intersected this ditch because there's going to be a lot of water coming down it. Everything that overflows out of that garden area, as well as this whole hardscape driveway. So all that water, instead of going down the ditch, just built a small little diversion right here that directs it into the orchard. So again, we have a nice long rocky bed to hopefully filter some of that out, and that's going to be a maintenance thing, to clean this occasionally. If it does get plugged up, there's a spillway right here next to the road. So you can see that's a little bit lower than the rest of this berm, and if that ever backs up, it'll just spill over this back into the same ditch it came out of. So there's another one of these road diversions further down over there, which I'll show you later. That goes into the bottom swale. So up here we've got a whole zone 1 garden area that we've been building, and that's going to collect some of the water off kind of that peaked area of the house by the front door, and that's going to flow through a couple of rain gardens up there against this hugelkultur at the bottom and then be directed out of that area. So that's catching a pretty significant amount of space up there, and then it's going to come to this spillway, and this will spill it right across this path. Again, just a really gentle, very gradual, really subtle change in elevation there. Keeps the water going where we want it to. That will come over here and drop into a rain garden at the top of the orchard. This also is going to collect everything off this part of the driveway. We've got this little berm right there, which will direct it to the side, as well as a little one over here that kind of creates a little crescent to catch any sheet runoff that comes this way. So that's the second place it enters the orchard, and now I'm going to show you the third place. So this pit that we dug here, this is going to be the top rain garden that's going to bring the water into the orchard from the main part of the roof over there. There's a couple downspouts that drain most of the roof. We're going to pipe that down into this rain garden here. If we ever want to install a secondary rain tank up there to collect more of that water, we could run the overflow of that rain tank into that pipe and bring it to the orchard here. So this is a rain garden. This will help soak up a lot of energy from all the water moving downhill, and also soak in some water to feed these bananas right here. This will overflow onto this path. Now when we shot this with a laser level, we found out this path just happened to be mostly on contour. So we built the berm on the bottom side of it, and that'll collect a lot of that water coming out of that rain garden and fill up this path here. That's going to overflow this spillway, which is nice and flat and level. Made sure it was level across the whole thing, packed down so it doesn't erode. And that'll allow all this water to sheet over in a nice thin sheet and not create a lot of erosion. I've also armored this with rocks to minimize that erosion as well. So all the water from this part of this path is going to overflow and sheet down through this part of the orchard and be caught by the lower swale. Now this side of the path, it's fed by this rain garden here, which, as I said before, collects all that water off the driveway and from that zone 1 garden area up there. That'll come into this path. Again, it's armored with rocks so that steep slope doesn't get eroded. That will flow out onto this part of the path here, this swale, and overflow through this spillway. And again, as you can see, where we have to have water across the paths, we've created this really gentle rolling berm here, kind of like a long speed bump. That'll be easy to walk over or roll wheelbarrows over, carts over, but it also keeps the water on the right side of the path. And now we're back to this roadside catchment, which directs water into the orchard. You can see I've been testing these swales. We're lucky enough to have an irrigation ditch running through the property, so we have plenty of water, and I can fill these swales and make sure that they fill up right and the spillways work. It's really useful. But as you can see, trying to shoot a contour through an orchard with established trees gets a little tricky. You can't exactly get one straight contour line across the whole orchard. So we've kind of used the excavator to connect some of the mounds that these trees are on and just create these series of basins. So once this basin fills up, it overflows right here. The spillway is just a little path between these trees. It was just regular grade. That drains into another basin right here, which then overflows across this path. This path is acting as a spillway. You got another little speed bump thing there. That drains into this swale, which I am testing right now. Once that fills up, comes across to another one of these path spillways, another speed bump, and this will just gently flow across this path and into this rain garden here. Again, we've armored the downslope part of that spillway as well as just this steep slope next to this path to keep that from eroding. So once this fills up, it'll overflow across this path. There's another speed bump right there behind the hose. That goes into this small swale. As you can see, if we ran that contour line, we'd run right into that big mulberry tree. So we kind of had to make a series of step down swales. It's going to come fill this up, flow across this spillway, which then drains into this little swale. That just feeds these little trees here, and then that flows across this wide path into another basin. This basin spills over that spillway into the lower swale. And finally, we're back here at that lower road catchment. So this is going to catch any excess water coming off the crown of that road, and it's going to bring it down into this little swale here. It goes below these pomegranate trees and that citrus. That also catches the runoff from that top swale, coming all the way from that rain garden on the other side of the orchard. That flows across, pretty much fills this up evenly, crosses another path, and goes into the final swale at the bottom. Now this is also a path, as you can see. It's access in here to get down to these figs. and that fills up, and this is the final spillway. As you can see, this is twice as wide as any of the others, since this is collecting all the water from not only the houses and the driveways, but the whole orchard as well. And it's all exiting right here. And that will just sheet across this grass until it exits probably around that corner, where as you can see it's green over there. A lot of the irrigation water from this orchard has been seeping out that way. So as you can see, it's kind of a complicated and twisty, turning, windy path of water through this orchard, but that's what we want. We want to spread that water out as much as possible, make it go back and forth, zigzag across the landscape, touching all these trees, giving it all kinds of time to soak in and water those trees, instead of all that water just sheeting across the surface and leaving it really dry here in the summertime. So this is going to do a few things. Not only are we dealing with some of the drainage issues up by the house, keeping that water away from the house, but we're also catching all the water off that roof, catching the water off all that hardscape up there. So all that water is going to come into the orchard and then sit in these swales. It's going to be slowed down and stopped, giving it time to soak into the ground instead of leaving. Once we get a lot of cover crops in here and get the soil built up more, that'll create a big sponge to soak up even more of that water. Now we're also catching water off all the paths within this orchard. They're all going to be packed down earth to make them easy to walk upon, but that packed earth is going to act as water catchment as well. So anytime we've got a lot of path and we've got one of these crossings, one of these speed bumps, that's going to catch all the water that comes down these paths and stop it before it gets going too fast and causes a lot of erosion. So we have created somewhat of a problem from packing down all this earth to give us access, but that problem's also a solution. We're going to catch a lot more water into these swales and put it right at the tree roots. Now one other special thing this is doing for us is it's allowing us to flood irrigate these trees during the summertime instead of putting them on drip. They like a deeper watering and it'll help them be healthier in that fruiting time. Now this is really only possible because we have an abundant source of water with that irrigation ditch, but it is quite a big plus. Hopefully it'll also help to drown out some of the gophers that are in here. So that's about it. I hope you've enjoyed this really quick, simple tour of quite a complicated project. I've had a lot of fun doing this, and I look forward to doing more. If you enjoy watching my videos, you like what I'm doing, please go out to patreon.com/JesseGrimes and become a patron. Thanks for watching.